Good evening. We're going to get started with tonight's presentation, public information meeting. Thank you, first of all, for coming. Thanks for braving the elements and coming out to the event this evening for a City of West Bend Strategic Downtown Plan public information session. My name is Jay Shambo. It's my pleasure to serve as your City Administrator in the City of West Bend. We have several city staff members here in attendance today, department heads, staff members that are able to answer questions along with the GRAEF team for the downtown plan. We have several aldermen in attendance as well. Thank you all for coming. Your chief elected leaders care about what's going on in our downtown and have been following this planning process really closely, and we're all excited that they're here, that you're here, that our team, our department head team is here. I'm just going to say a couple of words and then ask Bill to introduce the Bend. We're thankful for the Bend. Bill Bender serves as the volunteer executive director of the Bend and does a great job. Not been to a show here, you should come. It's awesome. And this is a great facility. This process has been going on for the better part of a year throughout 2023, the planning process. You'll hear a lot about that from Craig, from the GRAEF team in a second. And then at the conclusion of the presentation, we'll probably ask to hold questions until the end of the presentation, but then you'll have a chance to provide public input and ask questions of our planning team, of our staff, and elected leaders if there are any questions that you have of them. We're all here and able to answer questions that we might have. We're not afraid to say we don't know if it's something that we'll take some research and get back to you on. We're excited about the positive improvements that have taken place in downtown over the last few years and really excited about the future, and that's what this planning process is for. So with that, Bill Bittner. Thanks, Bill.
Jay, hello everybody, welcome to the Bend. How's everybody tonight? Good, well thank you for coming. Just going to take a couple of minutes. I think a lot of you have been to shows here and you've heard our curtain speeches, but this beautiful facility opened in 1929. 80 years, this is where people came for entertainment, mainly movies. It did shut down though in 2006 and it sat empty for about 10 years. Our nonprofit, the Historic West Bend Theater, we acquired the building. We went through about a 2-year planning process and obviously fundraising to come up with the funds to restore this beautiful 1929 gem back to its original appearance. And I was telling people that everything you see on the walls and the light fixtures, a lot of that stuff is original. The walls were all reproduced, but it was found after scraping layers of paint off the walls. So this is a really, really accurate representation of what this building looked like in 1929. We're so proud of it. When we kicked this whole adventure off of restoring this building, we wanted this to be a community space. So when Jay and Jess ask if they can use the facility for things like tonight, we of course say yes, because this is a community building. We couldn't have done it without the generous donations from the residents in town. A lot of the businesses in town contributed to the $4.6 million that went into this. We also had some Wisconsin economic development and tax credits, but $4.6 million, and we have the most beautiful building you could ever imagine. We are in the heart of downtown, and we appreciate when you guys come to support us, because being a nonprofit, every dollar of proceed that comes from shows just goes right back into the next show that we want to put on. We do classic movies. We just finished the Christmas series with all of the greats, Elf and Polar Express and White Christmas. We have concerts. So we also have comedy, and we have private rentals, so businesses and birthday parties. Our website is thebendwi.org. You can go on and look at all our events. We're pretty much scheduled through all of the year. We're already starting to work on events for next holiday season. So please come back, see us. You'll have a great time. Thank you for coming tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to Craig. Thank you, guys.
Great, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jay. My name again is Craig Huebner. I'm an urban planner with GRAEF. With me tonight are two of my colleagues, Eric Schmidt, who's a landscape architect in the back there, and then Dominic Marlowe, an urban designer with GRAEF. So GRAEF was hired by the city of Milwaukee, or by the city of West Bend, to perform this downtown master plan. So my intent tonight is to give a summary presentation of what this planning process has been and really what this plan is and where we're at in the process. So the purpose of this plan, for those of you who have been in West Bend for a long time, the downtown actually has not looked at a long-term vision since really 1999 was the last time that an actual plan was conducted for the downtown area. The Riverwalk did have a plan in 2006, but it's been several decades since the city has really looked strategically at a long-term vision for what this area could look like. So that's one lens of why this plan and why now. Obviously, we've seen major investment and awesome improvements to downtown recently with Main Street and the Riverwalk. These are amazing investments. But now how do we leverage those investments to really ensure that West Bend and downtown thrives for the future? And then finally, we have great investment of late, both private sector and public sector investments, but what are some immediate things that we can also do in year one, year two that can, again, elevate downtown to make it a truly memorable destination? So with this planning process, on the right here, you can see the downtown study area focus of this project. And while there's a specific solid line here, really when we look at a master plan, we want to look at all the surrounding geographies as well. So we looked at Ragnar Park and the surrounding neighborhood as well. That all influences what can happen in the future of downtown. And as Jay mentioned, this planning process began in early 2023. And the hope is after this meeting, this plan will go to your plan commission and to the council for hopeful adoption into the future guiding document for the city. And as part of the planning process, what actually has come out of this is two different draft plan documents. One is a streetscape master plan, which is focused specifically on the streets of downtown and what they can look like in the future. And then the other plan document is a downtown master plan, which is a long-range 20-year plan that looks not only at circulation parking improvements, but also private sector redevelopment opportunities throughout the downtown area. As part of this process, there were several forms of engagement that took place here. I want to just highlight on some of the community-wide survey responses that we received that helped influence some of the recommendations that are in this draft plan. So the survey that did go out to the entire community received about 670 responses. Of those responses, it's interesting to note that about 50% of those respondents frequent the downtown, at least 50% of the respondents frequent downtown once per week. So it's a very active place, not only for residents, but for your visitors to downtown West Bend as well. When we asked what people like most about visiting downtown, some of the key answers were the restaurant options, walkable environments, and the Riverwalk or river access. When we asked what people dislike about downtown, some of the top responses were parking, new construction, and lack of scenic views of the river from Main Street. What I would say with this response too, it's always important to dig a little deeper into these dislikes, but parking, new construction, there's a lot worse things that can be dislikes about a downtown, and what I would say is think critically. These can be positives in a way when you look at this. There's activity happening in your downtown that not every downtown and community can really brag about. So there's positives here, but also we want to make sure that we're addressing these concerns that we're hearing from the community. So how do we ensure there's adequate, sufficient parking, and that construction can be managed in a way that really continues to thrive for downtown. When we asked what improvements people would like to see, we heard better use of underutilized properties in downtown, the desire for multi-season outdoor seating and dining, and public restrooms as some of the top priorities. And then a final comment here that I just want to highlight as far as what uses people wanted to see, the diversity of shopping options, multi-season outdoor dining again, and entertainment and nightlife. So with the master plan, what the plan includes is a vision statement and guiding principles. And I won't read all the guiding principles, but I want to read this vision statement. It says, celebrate the downtown as the focus of community life in West Bend and the keeping place of community heritage. Why I want to highlight this is any future development or any future projects that the city has, one purpose of this plan is really to look back at these guiding principles and this vision statement to make sure that all new things that are happening can go through this lens as kind of the first take to make sure that there's this consistent vision for what the future of downtown looks like. So as far as the master plan itself, it's broken down into both existing conditions, but when we get to the recommendations, there's 4 major categories that I'd like to highlight in my presentation here, and the boards show more specific examples. But the 4 recommendations are urban design framework for the downtown, circulation and parking recommendations, development and redevelopment, and that's both publicly owned properties and privately owned properties, and then placemaking or activation strategies. And this last category I'll get into, these are immediate actions, something that actually could take place within the first year to 3 years that we've identified as part of this process. So urban design framework, this diagram is really an overarching master plan guide for this document. And what it includes is different opportunities for the entire downtown. So you'll see different elements like gateway features, street face or character areas. These are important streets that really desire to have active ground level uses, restaurants, or other active things that make it pedestrian friendly. There's different public gathering spaces, again, redevelopment opportunities, several streets. So Main Street was recently obviously upgraded, but there's other streets where we've identified other streetscape enhancements that will really elevate downtown. We have a historic district in downtown, so we've identified not only historic buildings, but other buildings that contribute to that character. We want to be conscious of allowing for new development, but also be respectful of that character that is downtown, because we don't want to lose that as part of the sense of place for the West Bend downtown area. And then there's different place-based connections, and those are more pedestrian connections between the Riverwalk and other areas of downtown, and different facade improvements that are identified. So what this map does is it allows city staff and policymakers and you as community members to understand when new things come up, how do they fit within this larger plan for the downtown and where different improvements may occur. Within the streetscape master plan, there's specific sections of that identify future vision for the streets themselves. So this slide highlights those: roadways, parking, streetscape, amenities and materials, wayfinding signage, a brand or sense of place, and maintenance. All these are touched upon in greater detail within the streetscape master plan. And I'll show a little bit, some slides here that highlight that as well. On the left here is a diagram of the existing parking in downtown. When you look at the different colors, it's highlighting the different forms of public parking, from on-street, parallel, angled, perpendicular, to public parking lots. Within downtown, there's just under 1,400 on-street parking stalls and a little over 400 public parking lots. So that does not include any private parking. There's close to 1,800 parking stalls in downtown. What this map also highlights, you'll see these 3 circles here with the letter P. The plan identifies future parking structure location potential. This is something where we've identified 3 sites, one being the fire station site along Highway 33, another site being the existing city-owned parking lot off of 7th Avenue nearby the post office, and then the 3rd site being off of Walnut where the Westbury Bank site is. And with these 3 sites, the intent is not that this would be a standalone parking structure, but all 3 of these sites have opportunity for private sector development as well. So what the plan recommends is what's called a shared use parking structure, meaning that the private development would utilize some of that structure for the private parking, either for residents or commercial use, but that there'd also be public parking for other times of the day where the public could come and park at these locations. The benefit of that is you don't just have a large parking structure that doesn't necessarily maybe look always the best as a standalone, but it also allows for the city not to invest all the money on a parking structure and has that shared cost opportunity with the private sector. On the right, every single street within downtown is identified as a future improvement or vision. Some streets are more intense than others, some show complete reconstruction, and some just need some minor facelift or other amenities, lighting or trees that are recommended. But the point of this master plan, again, is that there's a vision and a clear understanding for what these future streets will look like when capital dollars become available to make those improvements. 2 examples of this, just that I've highlighted here, and there's some other examples on the presentation boards in the back, but our State Highway 33 or Washington Avenue and then 6th Avenue. So State Highway 33 is one of the main gateway roadways, arterial streets that entering into downtown. So the proposed configuration here takes the existing center two-way left turn lane and actually proposes to replace that with a raised planted median that would allow for some vegetation and more of a gateway entrance to the downtown area here. And this street does have some properties to the south side that would potentially allow for some right-of-way acquisition to really provide enough space to widen the sidewalks and allow enough space for the central median, and again, allow for that welcoming gateway to downtown. On the right here for 6th Avenue, the plan recommends a reconstruction of 6th Avenue and a redesign as what we call a shared street. Shared street meaning that we want to design the street to make it really feel like a pedestrian-friendly, pedestrian walkable street. So it would still allow for vehicles to drive on this, but what we've shown is a redesign of the angled parking to parallel parking, which ends up allowing for the existing sidewalks to widen by about twice the amount that they are right now, give more space for trees, outdoor seating, and the existing businesses that are on that street, but also make way for future redevelopment that could occur on different sites along 6th Avenue. I know you may be thinking moving from angled to parallel has its downfalls, including potentially losing some parking. So this is a concept level. We're showing potentially 10 parking stalls actually that would potentially be lost with this reconfiguration. But what we would argue is there's a lot of value with this redesign from a pedestrian standpoint, from a placemaking, higher design standpoint that could really bolster new development along 6th Avenue. Within the plan itself, the diagram on the left here again shows where different street trees could be located throughout downtown. So the different colors represent where on the streets they could be located, either in bump outs, in the blue, in the green lines are within the terrace space next to sidewalks, or some streets are just too narrow, and the orange color identifies no trees within those. And on the right side, different wayfinding and gateway elements are proposed. You can see the different ways to find parking that exist in downtown or other destinations are an important part of this plan for how we allow people to easily navigate downtown to the destinations. As I mentioned, as part of the recommendations, there's specific development or redevelopment proposed within downtown. The diagram on the left has several different highlighted blocks that identify different redevelopment opportunities or public space improvements. So within the plan, each one of these includes a text narrative of what that potential future use could be. And then some of the sites, not all of them, actually identify or include a sketch or a diagram of what the actual development could look like or vision could be. These are conceptual in nature, but more meant to guide and help property owners or future investors understand what the city's desire and intent is for these different spaces. So the image on the right is an example of a potentially new public gathering space. This is along the Riverwalk here, the new Riverwalk with the kayak launch. This is just off of Mill Street, so you can see Main Street here. And what this is showing is a potential for a new outdoor gathering space. This is currently a surface parking lot here. So the intent is, how do we create space along this Riverwalk where people could stop, have a beautiful outdoor space, and there's different amenities such as a playground or more family-friendly play features that could be here, or other outdoor seating elements to again provide a respite for people as they're walking along the Riverwalk. Within the master plan, it's not only a long-range vision, but there also is immediate, as I mentioned, action items that can take place. And we've called these different placemaking and activation strategies. With all of these strategies, and it's just a snapshot of the report that includes different ideas, these are solutions that not necessarily the city can do, although some of these are city solutions, but these are also things that private property owners, business owners, or other people within the downtown can implement. So there's things like greening Main Street or greening the streets, putting planter pots or other vegetation outside, decorative lighting, outdoor seating within downtown that can occur, can either be city-led or privately led. But these are what we would would call low-hanging fruits that really, again, elevate downtown and make people want to stay after they've come to downtown and make it more of an exciting place to stay. I think my final slide here, this is looking at Main Street. So Main Street is one area that we've looked more intentionally as far as the street has been redesigned as a beautiful new street, but now how do we look at the different amenities that can take place to really, again, make this an attractive space for people to stay, sit, and enjoy. So what we're showing on this diagram and the presentation board includes examples of here is different flower pots that are being proposed for the street lights, different planter pots, and different seating elements, including planter pots that are large enough to actually accommodate trees within those large planter pots as well. So what the plan shows is different locations along Main Street where these different amenities could be located. We're showing Main Street here, but this is throughout downtown again, where we're looking for input on what types of amenities and streetscape elements that people would like to see throughout downtown. So this is obviously, it's a lot to take in. This is a first presentation of some of these ideas, and the presentation boards that are in the back are just a snapshot, again, of these two reports that I made reference to. After tonight's meeting, these two plan reports will be available online for people to actually access and read the full reports in greater detail, so that you'll be able to comment online and look a little bit closer. But for tonight, what we would love is our GRAEF staff, city staff will be in the back by these presentation boards, which give a little bit more detail, and we'd love for you to come up and have a conversation with us, to ask us questions and give feedback. There are comment cards, physical comment cards in the back if you prefer to just write down any comments tonight, or like I said, after tonight, the plans will be posted online for you to give feedback digitally as well in an online format. With that, I'm going to invite Jay back up and would welcome any questions right now as well that people have here in the audience if you're not afraid to speak and hear your voice heard. So thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Nobody in this room is afraid to speak, so that's all good. If you have a question that you are comfortable asking publicly, feel free to do that, or a comment or a thought. Raise your hand, we'll run the mic over to you or relay the question to the group. Excellent.
So if the city were to redesign or redevelop any of the other streets in the downtown area, like 6th Avenue, for instance, will the sidewalks, will they include any cobblestone or stamped concrete, like crosswalks, or will it be more like the recent downtown development?
Great question. The question was, if a street is reconstructed, such as 6th Street, what will it look like? Will it look like how Main Street was just done, or will it have cobblestone like some of the other areas of downtown? So within the streetscape master plan, we do recommend materiality and color palettes. So with Main Street and the Riverwalk, we're seeing specific more darker gray tone color themes, as well as different pavers and specific retaining wall blocks that are used there. We're not saying that they need to be the exact same materials, but they need to be complementary and talk to each other. So with these other streets, we do want there to be similar colors. And the reason with these kind of darker color tones sometimes is over time, if you use these brighter red colors or more vivid colors, when the street needs to be repaired or different utilities come in, to try to match those colors again become difficult, and it ends up looking more like patchwork, or sometimes if costs are an issue, you'll just put down asphalt instead of the actual beautiful red, original pavement. So with the gray tones, there is a little bit more forgiveness that we see, and that's one of the reasons why you sometimes see these more gray tones. And what I would say is, what we like to do with then vegetation is really the plant life, the trees, the planters is what gives life and greenery and the vividness and the bright colors within the streetscapes. But with any future project, it will be a public process, there'll be public input, and there definitely is opportunity for those things to change from what's included here. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Go ahead.
All right, I got a couple of them. First of all, was there any traffic engineering studies done, especially in relation to the Highway 33?
So part of this was not any traffic engineering. GRAEF does have traffic engineers on staff. So with these master planning process, we ensured to have conversations with our in-house traffic engineers, and we did talk with city staff. What I would say is obviously the state highway has many different regulations, and we're aware of those too. So nothing that you'll see in here from a planning standpoint, we would say is impossible, but it absolutely will require more intense engineering and analysis.
And as part of the Main Street reconstruction project, there was some traffic engineering that took place regarding the connectivity between, or potential connectivity between the end of Main Street where we have that turnaround and Highway 33. So that was looked into. Okay.
All right, so the next question, the 6th Street. You're talking about replacing the angle parking with parallel parking. Now, that street is already very traffic heavy, especially your particular times of the day. Has there been any thought into doing parallel parking on one side and angle on the other, or actually switching it off, that there may be at the break of the, where the streets intersect, flipping it from one side to another?
Yeah, in-house, I'll say we had a lot of different kind of back and forth with what this looks like. And what I would say, and I know it's hard because this is a very specific kind of drawing that you see here, but with a master plan, it really is meant to portray more of the intent. So the intent with this street is to make it feel like more of a destination street, make it feel more pedestrian friendly. So widening the sidewalks or designing the street in such a way where it feels like more of that, where you can accommodate more trees, more things that are pedestrian friendly. The exact logistics of, is it all parallel? Maybe it does all stay angled parking, but there's different ways that you can achieve that. Yes, I think to answer your question, it's potential that it's not going to obviously look exactly like this and could have one side angled, one side parallel.
Okay, and so the last question is about bikes. We have a lot of bicycle traffic with Eisenbaum Trail and such. So looking at how we're going to carry that, because there's a lot of people who come in the summertime to the festivals and events, you know, the mower talks, fest, etc., and they're coming to downtown with their bikes. Thought into having provisions for them to actually have safe places to leave their bikes. So I was just wondering what the conversation around that is.
Yeah, I think they're definitely, it's a starting point with what this plan does include. So obviously the Eisenbaum Trail is a big regional, trail that brings a lot of bikers in. So what the plan does identify, and this diagram doesn't show, but there is one I think on the exhibit board, is we are recommending along Walnut Street here to actually have on the north side of the street an actually off-road bike side path, if you want to call it that, a 10-foot wide space for just bicyclists that would be separate from a sidewalk. There would be a major connector to the Eisenbaum Trail. And what our approach was for the rest of downtown is really Main Street and the other streets are really the destination. So bike parking, bike racks are really focused on the perimeter of downtown and less about making sure that there's bike lanes on your 6th Street, on 7th Street, on Main Street. We're not proposing that. It's more get to the edge of these and have appropriate bike racks and parking where then people can walk the rest of the way into the downtown.
So I can see the value with having the additional walking space on 6th Street, but I also am concerned with losing the parking. Is there any thought that the compromise may be to make 6th Street one way with one traffic lane and use the extra space given by that for the walking?
Yeah, so the answer is yes, everything will need to be looked at from a traffic operations standpoint. What I would caution is we want to add as little confusion to a downtown area because there's already a lot of people trying to find where they can park and navigate in downtown. So one thing that you will see in this plan is we're not ever recommending to close down necessarily certain portions of streets or maybe make them one way, as sometimes that can be viewed as just a confusion and frustration with drivers. But I would say when we look at, how do we ensure that people are getting to their final destination, that absolutely should be an evaluation with all streets, and how do we ensure, we can get people to their final destination. So yes, it will need to be looked at, but it's a caution that sometimes is a negative in certain downtown areas.
I just wanted to say that I've been really impressed with the way that the Riverwalk has improved in its looks with the project that happened this last summer. But it seems like it still has something that needs to be added. And so you've got a lot of backs of buildings that are very plain and nondescript. I'm wondering if there's been any talk of maybe putting some artistic murals or some kind of artwork on them to dress up the area, especially the fact that you're looking at that area right here in Moa, for one. And it just seems like a perfect complement to an art space to have some art that people are also seeing outside. And then there's also you've got the really nice like brickwork look on the river wall, but then there's a couple of chunks that are just like plain concrete. So I'm wondering if there's any talk of that being painted a similar color or made to look similar like the other blocks, that it all kind of blends together.
Yeah, great comments. So with the Riverwalk, obviously we're in the heart of winter right now, but come springtime and summertime, there is plans for actual trees to start to be planted along different portions of the Riverwalk. So that's one thing that you're not seeing right now. That will be one added level of vegetation. As I mentioned, different strategies right away. There's different floral or vegetation in planter pots that could happen on that backside as well. So greening, again, the Riverwalk is another way that has been looked at. The city does have a grant program where certain businesses and property owners along that have been able to receive city dollars to make some improvements to the backsides of their buildings. But I would say there's still obviously a lot that can happen. And the discussion, at least right now, that has been had is that there's more desire to have a specific design review process for, yes, there's potentially dollars available, but how do we ensure that there's, again, a cohesive design for that back, whether it's murals or other improvements or just activated elements on the rear sides of all these buildings. And there's been some great recent examples, but I would say you're not wrong that there's other opportunities that can exist. So the specific examples of doing any painting, there hasn't been any specific plans, but I would say those are all ideas that are still, I think, being talked about right now.
Right about the facade program that we've had in place for the last few years. It's existed for decades under the West Bend Economic Development Corporation, and now more recently under the Business Improvement District. It's actually Business Improvement District funds that are going to fund the smallish grants that have been able to improve maybe phase one of improving the backs of the buildings, getting them tuck pointed and painted up. Regarding the Riverwalk specifically, I think Mike Yench would be best suited to talk to that. Let Mike, our Parks Rec and Forestry Director.
Thank you. So the one question specifically was the Great Wall on the river. During the planning process of the Riverwalk, prior to Riverwalk construction, we did have SEH, an engineering firm, inspect that wall for us. They found it structurally sound, et cetera, et cetera. So that was one reason why we left it. It was a cost savings. The cost savings was about $600,000 to save that wall, keep part of that history, that existing wall down there. We did cut it down, cap it. We have our nice railing on it. That railing's actually going to be lit at some point in time. We're still working through some of those construction details. But like it was mentioned, the trees are coming this spring. We have all of our bench pads in down on the Riverwalk. We may not have benches on them because many of our bench locations throughout our park system, we have a celebration bench program. A lot of people purchase those benches maybe for a loved one or a family or a celebration. So that's why you might see these concrete slabs with nothing on it. We have the benches. We're just waiting for people who would like to purchase those benches for their family or loved ones. The bike racks are installed down on the Riverwalk. Trash receptacles are down there. A lot of those amenities are in. We didn't do the tree planting this last fall because we were just trying to get all the heavy lifting on the construction. But that's in the plan for spring. Our walk lights down on the Riverwalk, we already have the banners in-house. Sarah GRAEF Sales helped us out with those, with our new Riverwalk logo on there. We're already working with the sculpture, the West Bend Friends of Sculpture, on some ideas along the Riverwalk. So we talk about murals and doing some of these niceties along the Riverwalk. Yes, we want to do those. Those are in our plans. I'm just personally happy we got the heavy lifting of the construction done where it's at. So now we can really start having some fun with the Riverwalk and tied in with our downtown.
Thanks, Mike. Question way in the back. Question?
Just to piggyback on the art, because we're home to MOA, it would be nice if we could work with MOA to get some smaller artwork, sculptures that would lead from MOA into the downtown area and vice versa. And then people going to MOA are then encouraged to look at the art, and then they come into West Bend and vice versa. It would add to the community, nothing big, but just something tasteful that kind of reflects West Bend.
Thank you for that comment. Other questions or comments? Think somebody wants to share publicly?
Just a quick question about the phasing. There's a lot of great ideas, but the phase for certain plans based on the survey results you got, there were some high priorities that people thought would be great to have downtown, like public bathrooms, for instance. But just wondering a timeline for some of these things to afford.
Maybe I'll speak to the public restroom and then let Craig do the heavy lifting on the other stuff like roads and other exciting things. But the public restroom is something that we hear often. The Downtown Association, thanks Noella, brings in porta potties on a regular basis for their events, and that's problematic and expensive. And we would love to have a public restroom somewhere located in our downtown. We're actively working on that. We hope to partner with you and other organizations on that to have that become a reality sooner than later. The big stuff.
Yeah, the big stuff, obviously, your city elected officials and staff are active in trying to continue to recruit, businesses and driving, success and use of downtown. So as we continue to hopefully attract new uses, that provides opportunity again for other public improvements, whether that's streets or other enhancements that are recommended in this plan. So the more we can continue to get people excited to invest in downtown, either outside the community or inside the community, that's only going to provide opportunities for public dollars to also be spent as part of this.
Thanks. So, we've had a 50-year history of public and private partnership in this downtown area. And I'm a little worried that we might get too much regulation on adding greenery. Greenery came out, it's almost all gone, trees are gone. So some businesses are already adding, we just added some pots outside the theater. So I'm a little worried about constricting that creative activity on the part of building owners by having to fit into some master plan. I think we may be better. We may want a little loose rein there instead of tight rein, and let people who own the buildings figure out how to beautify them out front. Just a comment.
Greg, will you click to that slide? Yeah, that one. This question came up this morning. We had a similar session at this morning's session about the timing of this greenery, as Mr. Trinas asked. How soon are we going to get to it? Are we just going to talk about it? Was kind of the question this morning, and we are absolutely working on it. The pots and planters and hanging baskets are going to be part of greenery for 2024. In addition to the ribbon beds, if you see the little bed in front of the bench there, reflects kind of a ribbon bed that's in place that just as the road got completed, fall and winter came to us, so we weren't able to get those planted. But Roots and Branches, our volunteer organization that works really hard to help beautify the city of West Bend, is going to get in there and plant those beds as soon as possible in the new year to have those greenery opportunities. Regarding the flexibility or does it have to be this planter in front of a business, or can it be something that a business owner wants to put in? That's the push and pull, John, of the, you know, some love uniformity, some love creativity, and we get to be part of those conversations collectively as a community. So I guess just stay tuned and continue to provide your input and feedback on that topic, and we'll continue to progress just as soon as possible to get that done for this coming year. John Butch. Alderman Butch.
Thank you. Who would be responsible for all the maintenance of all the flower pots in that town?
It's a great question. The maintenance, and then the gentleman behind Mr. Butchlick just shared and the cost associated with them. The pots, the actual gray pots, the second photo from the left, yep, that one, thanks, Greg. That was part of the downtown Main Street reconstruction project. We bid that as an alternate, and the bids came in at a cost where we weren't able to fund those for this year's construction project. So that's part of the reason they're not in place right now. As far as maintaining them, so we're working on that, the funding piece. There will be likely many partners as part of pulling that off. Maintaining them will likely be a combination of Roots and Branches and the business owners. Again, that organization for us has just done such a phenomenal job. There are some Roots and Branches representatives or volunteers in this room, some board members, and we're super thankful that they're a part of our community and continue to work so hard. But there will be likely a combination. And when we do the spring cleanup, we have a ton of city staff, public works, and park Mike staff in attendance and helping out, working hand in hand with the business owners. We just seem to get it done, John. That's a great question. Other thoughts? Was there somebody over here?
I'm curious about the relationship between some of the nonprofits that you mentioned, the developers of the Riverwalk and the developers of the street, and GRAEF. And what is the status of your current relationship with the city of West Bend? And has any of this plan been adopted yet?
Yeah, so the question was, what's GRAEF's relationship with this project, and has any of this plan actually been adopted yet? So GRAEF was hired as a consultant by the city of West Bend to create this master plan process. The deliverable that we were tasked and charged with doing is delivering a master plan with the intent that this would go before your plan commission and your council and actually be adopted as a vision, as a master plan for your community. That has not happened yet, so this is kind of the introduction or kind of presentation of this plan. The next step, this will be posted online for more public comment online, and then there'll be a future plan commission meeting and a future council meeting with public hearing for any final potential decision and recommendation by those two entities for adoption.
Did your firm have anything to do with the Riverwalk or the street planning? And the other part of my question is, there was quite a lot of talk about 6th Street, and there's not a whole lot going on 6th Street. There are a number of vacant retail outlets on Main Street, and I'm wondering if in your planning you're coordinating with economic development.
Great question. Main Street and Riverwalk, GRAEF, our consultant firm, was not part of any of those projects. They were separate engineering firms that the city worked with. And then as far as 6th Avenue, being identified specifically, there is, I'm sorry, what was the question specific to 6th?
My question is with respect to the vacant retail outlets and the activity on 6th Street. I was a business owner there for over a decade in the Centrum building, and I also had a retail outlet on the corner of Walnut and Main Street. And there's just not a whole lot going on 6th Street, and there are still vacant businesses. And so what kind of coordination is being done with economic development to fill those gaps?
So as part of this process, we did talk with economic development regionally in the area with different departments and leaders from that factor, as well as some of our one-on-one interviews. We talked with developers, investors to truly understand the different potential. What I would say is sometimes it's what comes first. Is it the public investment of a major infrastructure project that you're hoping to do that will bring in business, or is it the other way around? You wait for that private sector to happen, and then you can do the major kind of public improvements. So, I won't speak for Jay or Jess, but with Main Street reconstruction, that is absolutely going to be a driver of excitement and potential more interest in your downtown, not only for Main Street, but people trying to get as close as they can to Main Street. So the timing of 6th Avenue, I would say there's no capital project, at least to my understanding, for 6th Avenue that's planned. But when we look at that, I think its proximity to Main Street and its need for physical improvements is why we have identified it as a potential candidate for reconstruction. And there are sites adjacent to 6th Avenue that are really opportunities for private sector redevelopment that could, again, provide dollars to invest in improve 6th Avenue. So I don't disagree that there are vacancies and maybe not as active as we wanted to see right now, but we definitely see that potential for 6th Avenue.
Other thoughts? Questions or comments? I want to keep you longer than you want to be here, so.
As I said before, this has been a 55-year partnership between the public sector and the private sector. And I just want to thank Jay and the city staff for being bold and imaginative in getting the Riverwalk done all the way up to Regner and getting the Main Street done. It's a phenomenal. We have one of the best best downtowns of small cities in America. So it's just, it was very visionary. It took a lot of guts to plunge ahead on it. And the taxpayers went along, the private sector went along. So I just think you guys have done a magnificent job. We got to pretty it up a bit. It's a little stark right now. A lot of concrete. But we can do that.
Thanks everyone for coming. The GRAEF team, the city team will be around to answer questions and continue conversations. Have a great night. Thank you.